I was overjoyed and bursting with excitement. After all, I had just received a big promotion at work, a moment I had dreamed about for years. What made it even more special was the timing. It was my third wedding anniversary. I couldn't wait to share the news with my husband, Michael, and my mother-in-law, Mrs. Robert, during our planned celebration. I pictured a night filled with laughter, hugs, and maybe even a toast to Michael the milestone. Little did I know, that night would shatter everything I believed about my life. Instead of the joyful celebration I imagined, I was met with something so shocking it left me stunned. Anger, fierce and unrelenting, replaced the happiness I anticipated. And before I could even process what was happening, Michael stood up, his face twisted with rage, and slapped me across the face. The force sent me to the floor, pain and disbelief washing over me. In that moment, as tears filled my eyes, I made a decision that would change my life forever. I had to escape this toxic relationship, but I didn't just want to leave. I wanted justice, and I wanted revenge. Let me start from the beginning. My name is Ava, and I'm a financial analyst living in Houston, Texas. For years, I believed my life was going exactly as planned. I had a stable career, a loving husband, and a life that seemed perfect on the surface. But on the night of my third wedding anniversary, everything unraveled in ways I could never have imagined. I remember that evening vividly. The sun was setting, casting a warm golden glow over the city. I was nervous but excited, knowing that the news I had to share would make the night unforgettable. After years of hard work and dedication, I had been promoted to senior financial analyst, a major milestone in my career. I couldn't wait to tell Michael and his mother about it over dinner at a fancy restaurant we had reserved for the occasion. The restaurant was beautiful, with soft lighting and the gentle hum of conversations around us. Everything felt perfect as we sat at our table, the three of us dressed up for the special occasion. Michael smiled at me across the table, and for a moment, I thought he would be thrilled about my news. His mother, Mrs. Robert, sat beside him, her eyes sharp as ever. Despite her often critical demeanor, I believed she'd at least be happy for me. I took a deep breath, my heart racing with excitement, and spoke. "Michael, Mrs. Robert," I began, unable to hide my grin, "I have some incredible news. I've been promoted to senior financial analyst." I paused, waiting for their reactions. I expected applause, cheers, or at least a simple congratulations. But instead, an awkward silence filled the air. I glanced at Michael, but his expression was hard to read. Mrs. Robert, however, left no room for doubt. Her face darkened, and when she finally spoke, her words cut through the air like a knife. "Is this what we raised him for?" she snapped, her voice cold and dripping with disdain. "To be overshadowed by his wife's career?" I froze, stunned by her reaction. This wasn't at all what I had anticipated. I thought she might feel proud, or even a little impressed. Instead, it felt like I had just committed some terrible offense. My joy began to fade as an uneasy chill crept over me. Michael shifted uncomfortably in his seat. I could tell he felt caught in the middle, torn between supporting me and siding with his mother. "Mom, it's great news for Ava. We should be celebrating her achievement," he said weakly, though his voice lacked confidence. Mrs. Robert wasn't having it. She turned her sharp gaze toward me and said, "What about starting a family, Ava? Do you think a promotion can replace the joy of children?" Her words hit me like a slap. Anger boiled inside me, but I tried to stay calm. I took a deep breath and replied as politely as I could. "I believe I can balance both my career and starting a family, Mrs. Robert. This promotion is important to me." But instead of calming the situation, my words seemed to make things worse. Michael avoided my eyes and stared down at the table. When he finally spoke, his words broke my heart. "Ava, maybe we should think about what Mom is saying," he murmured, his tone cold and distant. It felt like the ground beneath me had shifted. The man I thought was my biggest supporter, my partner in life, was siding with his mother over something I had worked so hard for. My voice trembled as I spoke again, trying to make him understand. "Michael, I can't just quit my job to meet your mother's expectations. I deserve respect for my hard work. The tension at the table was suffocating. I could feel the curious stares of other diners, but I didn't care. I had to stand up for myself. Michael, however, seemed to be losing patience. His frustration boiled over, and his voice turned sharp. "You're being unreasonable, Ava," he said harshly. "You're my wife, not my competitor. Why can't you see that?" His words felt like a dagger to my chest. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "This isn't a competition, Michael," I said, my voice breaking. "I'm trying to share my success with you, to celebrate together." "Why does it feel like I'm being punished for my achievement?" Mrs. Robert leaned in, her expression cold and unforgiving. "You need to think about what's best for our family, Ava," she said sternly. "Your career ambitions shouldn't come before your responsibilities as a wife." I felt trapped. The people who were supposed to support and love me were treating me like an outsider, someone who didn't belong. In that moment, I realized I wasn't just fighting for my career. I was fighting for my dignity, my independence, and my very identity. "I won't give it up. Not for anyone." The words came out of my mouth before I could even think. They were fueled by anger, frustration, and desperation. I wasn't just fighting for my career. I was fighting for my identity, for who I was as a person. Michael suddenly stood up, his whole body tense with frustration. I could see how angry he was. "You just don't get it, do you? You're putting your career above everything else. Marriage is about sacrifice," he said, his voice sharp and cold. In that moment, I realized how deeply his mother's influence had shaped his thinking. Mrs. Robert had twisted his view of marriage into something suffocating, something that felt more like control than partnership. I had always believed that Michael and I were a team, two people working together to build a life. But now I felt like an outsider in my own relationship. Sacrifice shouldn't mean losing yourself. I shot back, my cheeks burning with anger and hurt. "I deserve to have my dreams too, Michael." The argument kept escalating, with no sign of resolution. Then something happened that I could never have imagined. Michael raised his hand, and before I could react, he slapped me hard across the face. The sound echoed through the restaurant, silencing all the chatter and clinking of glasses around us. I stumbled to the floor, my cheeks stinging not just from the slap, but from the deep betrayal of someone I had trusted and loved. For a moment, the world seemed to stop. I couldn't move. My heart raced as I tried to make sense of what had just happened. Tears streamed down my face as I lay there, feeling completely shattered. But as I sat on the floor, something stirred inside me. This was a turning point. The man I thought I knew, the man I married, had crossed a line I could never forgive. The trust one once had in him was gone, destroyed in an instant. A fierce determination began to rise within me. I knew I couldn't stay in this toxic relationship, not after this. I pushed myself up, ignoring the stares of the other diners. My heart pounded in my chest, and my hands trembled, but I refused to let this moment define me. I wouldn't let myself become a victim. I would take control of my life again. That night had started as a celebration of success and love. But now, it was a chaotic nightmare. As I looked at Michael and his mother, their faces cold and unfeeling, I understood something. This wasn't just a fight. This was my wake-up call. I needed to break free from the expectations and control that had been holding me back. I needed to start living for myself. I walked out of the restaurant, my steps unsteady, but my resolve growing stronger with every second. The cool night air hit my face, snapping me back to reality. My thoughts were a whirlwind of emotions: anger, fear, sadness, and, somewhere deep inside, a tiny flicker of hope. This was my chance to make a change, and I was ready to take it. When I got to my car, I sat in the driver's seat for a moment, gripping the steering wheel tightly. Tears blurred my vision as I replayed the events of the evening in my mind. How did it come to this? The man I loved had struck me, and his mother had turned him against me. The life we had built together now felt like a lie. As I drove home, the silence in the car felt suffocating. My thoughts were loud, racing with doubt and pain. When I finally reached the house, I dropped my keys on the table and collapsed onto the couch. The walls around me seemed to close in, and I felt trapped in the emptiness of it all. My phone sat on the table, and I stared at it hoping, maybe even praying, for a message from Michael. An apology. A sign of regret. But there was nothing. No texts. No calls. Just silence. I needed to talk to someone. I needed a lifeline. I picked up my phone and dialed Sophia, my best friend and colleague. She was the one person I could count on to understand. After a few rings, she picked up. "Ava? Is everything okay?" Sophia's voice was full of concern. "No, Sophia, it's not," I said, my voice trembling. "You won't believe what just happened." "What's going on? Are you all right?" she asked, her voice rising with alarm. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. I told Michael and his mother about my promotion during our anniversary dinner, and it all went downhill from there. Mrs. Robert was furious, and then Michael, he hit me. There was silence on the other end of the line for a moment. Then Sophia spoke, her voice shaking. "Oh my God, Ava. Are you hurt? Are you safe?" "I'm okay physically," I replied, my voice breaking. "But emotionally, I don't even know. Everything I thought I knew about my marriage just fell apart tonight." "Listen to me, Ava. You need to get out of that situation," Sophia said firmly, her voice steady and reassuring. "You don't deserve to be treated like that." "I know," I whispered. "But it's so complicated. We've been together for years. I thought we were happy." Sophia's tone softened. "Sometimes the people we love change. Or maybe they were always this way, and we didn't see it. Either way, you need to think about what's best for you now. You deserve to feel safe and respected." As I listened to Sophia's words, something clicked inside me. She was right. I had spent so long trying to please everyone else, Michael, his mother, even society's expectations. But where had that gotten me? It was time to take my life back. I wasn't going to let this moment define me. I had a long road ahead, but I was ready to start. This was my turning point. I had sacrificed so much for my relationship, my time, energy, and even parts of myself. Now, I was left feeling lost, alone, and unsure of what to do next. Taking a deep breath, I finally said the words I never thought I would. "I think I need to talk to a divorce attorney." The words felt strange as they left my mouth, but at the same time, they were liberating. "Do it," Sophia replied firmly, her voice steady and supportive. "I'll be here for you every step of the way. You deserve to find happiness." After hanging up the call, I sat in silence, a mix of fear and determination swirling inside me. The thought of taking such a big step terrified me, but it also made me feel powerful. I knew I couldn't continue living in this painful, toxic situation. It was time to take my life back, even if that meant making some of the hardest decisions I'd ever faced. The next morning, I woke up with a heavy heart but a clearer mind. I had a plan now. I picked up my phone and called the divorce attorney Sophia had recommended. "Hello, my name is Ava," I began, my voice shaking a little. "I need to file for divorce." The attorney, a calm and professional woman, replied kindly, "Understood. Can you come in this afternoon to discuss the details?" "Yes," I said, hanging up with a sense of resolve. This was the first step toward taking control of my life again. At work, I tried to keep everything normal, but the weight of what had happened the night before pressed down on me. My thoughts kept drifting back to the argument, the slap, and the broken trust. My boss, Mr. Thomas, noticed my distracted demeanor during our morning meeting. "Ava, is everything all right?" he asked gently. "You seem a bit off today." "I'm dealing with some personal issues, but I'll manage," I replied, forcing a smile. "You know you can talk to me if you need to," he said, his voice filled with understanding. "Thank you, Mr. Thomas. I appreciate it," I said, genuinely touched by his concern. It was comforting to know I had support at work. Later that day, Sophia surprised me by showing up with lunch. She sat across from me, placing a sandwich and coffee on the table. "I thought you could use a break," she said with a warm smile. "How did the meeting with the attorney go?" "I haven't gone yet," I admitted. "I'm nervous about what's next." "Just take it one day at a time," she encouraged. "You're stronger than you think, Ava." Her words gave me a glimmer of hope, and I felt a bit steadier. The afternoon passed in a blur as I threw myself into work, using numbers and spreadsheets to distract myself from the emotional storm brewing inside me. Finally, the time for my appointment arrived. As I stepped into the attorney's office, my heart pounded and my palms felt clammy. Ella, the divorce attorney, greeted me warmly. She was a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and a steady, professional demeanor. "Let's get started," she said, her tone calm and empathetic. "Tell me what's been going on." As I shared my story, detailing the emotional and physical pain I'd endured, I felt a weight lifting off my shoulders. Speaking my truth gave me a sense of empowerment. For the first time in weeks, I didn't feel like a victim. I felt like someone taking back control. "Ava, it sounds like you're making the right choice for yourself," Ella said when I finished. "You deserve to be in a healthy, supportive environment." Her words stayed with me as I left her office. I felt a mix of anxiety and exhilaration, knowing I had taken a significant step forward. The path ahead would be hard, but I was ready to face it. I would no longer let myself be defined by someone else's expectations. This was my time to find my voice, my strength, and my freedom. The weeks following that night at the restaurant were filled with emotions and difficult decisions. Detangling my life from Michael's was painful, but every step brought me closer to rediscovering myself. I buried myself in work, focusing on my promotion and proving to myself that I was capable of achieving my dreams. Mr. Thomas continued to check in on me, offering kind words of encouragement. "Ava, you're doing excellent work. If you ever need to talk, my door is open," he said one afternoon. "Thank you, Mr. Thomas. I appreciate your support," I replied, feeling grateful for his understanding. One evening, Sophia texted me, "Let's celebrate your new beginning. Drinks this weekend?" Her message made me smile. I needed this, an escape from all the heaviness, a chance to feel normal again. "Absolutely. I could use some fun," I replied, feeling a small spark of excitement. That Saturday, we met at a lively bar downtown. The place was warm and buzzing with energy. As I walked in, I felt a rush of life returning to me. Sophia waved from a corner table, and I joined her, feeling lighter for the first time in weeks. "Cheers to new beginnings," Sophia exclaimed, raising her glass. "To new beginnings," I echoed, clinking my glass against hers. We laughed and chatted about everything: work, my promotion, and the future. I told her about my idea to start a mentorship program for young women in finance. "I want to help them navigate challenges like the ones I've faced," I shared. "That's a brilliant idea. You'd be an amazing mentor," Sophia said, her eyes lighting up with excitement. Her encouragement made me feel even more inspired. As the night went on, I felt a part of myself reigniting, the part that was passionate, confident, and ready to take on the world. The following week, I met with Emily, a contact in the industry who had invited me to speak at a conference. We met at a cozy cafe downtown, and as we settled in, she smiled warmly. "I'm so glad you decided to join us, Ava," she said. "Your story can inspire so many people." "I hope so," I replied, feeling a new sense of purpose. I want to empower others to find their voice, just like I'm finding mine. And in that moment, I realized I was no longer just surviving, I was thriving. This was only the beginning of a brighter, stronger future. I replied to Hannah's message. I felt a wave of determination. "It's too late for that," I typed back, my heart feeling heavy but firm. Michael might regret everything, but I had moved on, choosing to focus on my own happiness and future. I was no longer defined by someone else's expectations or mistakes. I was Ava, strong, independent, and determined to live life on my terms. In the days leading up to the conference, I poured myself into preparation. I carefully wrote my speech, reflecting on the lessons I had learned through my journey. The night before, I practiced in front of the mirror, feeling a mix of nerves and excitement. My words were more than a speech. They were a message of resilience and hope. When the day of the conference finally arrived, I walked onto the stage, feeling the weight of the moment. The room was filled with women, their faces eager and expectant. My heart raced, but as I gripped the microphone and began to speak, a sense of purpose filled me. I stand here today as a survivor, I began, my voice steady despite the emotions bubbling beneath the surface. I've faced the storm, and I've come out stronger. The room was silent, every eye on me as I shared my story, the pain, the struggles, and the journey to reclaim my life. I looked out at the audience and saw nods of understanding. My words weren't just resonating, they were connecting. I know what it's like to feel trapped, I continued, my confidence growing. To think your dreams don't matter. But let me tell you this, your voice matters. Your dreams matter. And you deserve to pursue them. When I finished, the room erupted into thunderous applause. Tears filled my eyes as the emotions of the moment hit me. After the talk, women approached me, sharing their stories and thanking me for my honesty. Their words filled me with hope and reminded me that I wasn't alone. Together, we were stronger. In the days that followed, I channeled my energy into my mentorship program. I reached out to local universities, eager to connect with young women who were ready to carve their paths in the finance industry. The work invigorated me. I wasn't just Ava, defined by my past. I was Ava, a mentor, a leader, and a voice for change. Even as I thrived professionally, Michael tried to reach out. He sent texts, left voicemails, and even contacted mutual friends, desperate to repair what he had broken. I ignored his attempts, focusing instead on my newfound purpose. One night, Hannah, a mutual friend, messaged me. "Michael's been asking about you," she wrote. "He says he regrets everything." I stared at her message for a moment before replying. "It's too late for that," I wrote, my resolve unwavering. My heart felt heavy, but I knew I had made the right choice. I was moving forward and I wasn't looking back. As the months passed, I found my footing in this new chapter of my life. The mentorship program gained traction, and I began connecting with young women who shared my passion for finance. Each meeting filled me with a sense of purpose I hadn't felt in years. One Saturday, I hosted the first in-person meeting of the program at a local cafe. As I looked around the room at the eager faces of the participants, I felt a rush of excitement. "Welcome, everyone," I began, my voice steady and warm. "I'm so glad you're here. Today, we'll share our stories and discuss the challenges we face in our careers." The discussions that followed were vibrant and heartfelt. Each woman shared her experiences, and as I listened, I realized how powerful these connections could be. I wasn't just telling my story anymore, I was helping others find their voices too. After the meeting, a young woman named Zoe approached me. Her eyes were bright with hope as she said, "Thank you for creating this space. I've been struggling to find my place in this industry." "That's exactly why I started this program," I replied, smiling. "You belong here, and we'll support each other every step of the way." With each meeting, I grew more confident in my role as a mentor. I also began exploring new opportunities for myself. Emily, the industry contact who had invited me to speak at the first conference, reached out again. "I'd love for you to speak at another event," she said. I eagerly accepted, feeling ready to share not just my struggles, but also my triumphs. As I prepared for the next conference, I reflected on how far I had come. I was no longer the woman who had been slapped in public or trapped in a toxic relationship. I was Ava, a woman who had risen from the ashes and was determined to make a difference. The day of the second conference arrived, and as I stepped onto the stage, I felt the familiar flutter of nerves. But this time, they were accompanied by excitement. I began my speech with confidence. "Today, I want to talk about resilience," I said, looking out at the audience, "and the power of community. Together, we can overcome anything." When I finished, the applause was overwhelming. I felt a deep sense of connection with the people in the room. My pain had been transformed into strength, and I was using it to uplift others. As I drove home that evening, a sense of fulfillment washed over me. My past was still a part of me, but it no longer defined me. I was building a life on my own terms, a life filled with purpose, passion, and hope. Whatever the future held, I knew I had the strength to face it all.